back with a guitar related video this time. I'm playing my Gibson Hummingbird 12 string this weekend, and it's been a while since it's had new strings, so I'm going to take this opportunity to do a 12 string restring. Restringing 12 strings is twice as difficult. No, you got twice as many strings to deal with, but it's exactly the same as doing a standard 6 string, only twice as many. The tuners are a little bit smaller, and so it's a little bit more intricate, but it is the same process as in the video I demonstrated with my J200. So I'm going to go ahead and change the strings to these Elixir 10-47s. They're nano webs. I love these strings, especially on a 12 string, because they last so long, and a long time between 12 string changes is a good thing. So, and because you don't want to watch through all of this very slowly, I'm going to do it in fast motion, and I'll stop now and then just to describe little tricks, but most of the techniques are exactly the same as in a 6 string. Here we go. First thing I'm going to show is something that makes any string change go really smoothly, and that is a string winder. This is a Dunlop string winder that goes onto a drill. It's part of a little hand crank that comes off, but you can get these little attachments for your drill. You just put it in the drill and tighten it up, and then presto changeo, your change is very speedy indeed. It has grooves for both small and large kind of tuner buttons, and of course these are the small ones, so I'll be using that part. Again, you can use a electric screwdriver instead of a power drill, but power drill goes a little bit faster, but you want to be careful if you're using a drill like this, because you don't want to go too fast, and also you don't want too much tension on it. So I turn it down quite low here in the tension so that I'm not snapping anything by accident. And you want a drill that has variable speed so you can go fast and slow. I also like these kind that have the light on them, because you can get into little dark corners. So first of all, what we're going to do is loosen the strings that are here.
Been away, haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? Have you changed your style? And do you think that we've grown up differently? Don't feel the same. Seems you've lost your feel for me.
Now some people take the pins out with some side cutters and just leveraging them out. I always worry about damaging my pins. If they're just plastic, you don't worry about them because they're cheap, but these are in fact bone pins with ebony inlays in them. So I have this little device here that is a string puller. I think it again is a Dunlop. Is it Dunlop? It says patent pending. So anyway, it's a little pin puller. You put this over the pin, push that part down, and then pull up like so, and the pin comes out.
So let's leave it alone, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy.
If you have one of these little kind of winders, they have a little pin puller on this end as well, and that can be used to pull those pins out. And they're also great for snipping the ends of the strings off. Now that I've got my strings off the guitar, this is a really good time to give it a good polish and buff down the fretboard shine up my frets, I do that triple O steel wool. Sorry, not triple O, quadruple O, 0000 steel wool. You can get it at any hardware store. I don't like the filings to get into my guitar, so I cover it up and then give it a light buffing up and down the fretboard just to polish up those frets. This will also use a little swirling motion here. Will also clean off any finger guck and gunk off your fingerboard. There, that brightens them up. I use a little bit of compressed air just to blow off any of the filing. Now is also a good time to condition the fretboard and the bridge. My fretboard on this guitar, this is a custom Gibson 12-string Hummingbird, and it has a rosewood fingerboard and a rosewood bridge. And so I'm going to use this Dunlop 65 Ultimate Lemon Oil on the fingerboard and a little bit on the bridge as well. I live in a very dry climate, and these woods both look great and it conditions them, keeps them from drying out and splitting.
There's only you and me, and we just disagree.
There, it's just like moisturizing your skin. If your skin gets dry in the climate you're in and you use a moisturizer, then your guitar is going to need a moisturizer on the exposed wood. I'm just going to let that sit on the guitar for, I don't know, about a minute, and then I'll wipe off the excess with a paper towel. I also take the time while I'm waiting here to polish up my tuner knobs and get them all nice and shiny. I'll also take a soft brush to the headstock to get the dust off it, and then use some Dunlop 65 guitar polish. Now, this is a nitro cellulose finished guitar, and it's very soft, and when your sweat interacts with it, your sweat gets into the surface, and you can't see this on camera, but right here there's a haze. And so there's a couple of things you can do for that. One is the Gibson Restorative Finish Cream is a good product, and it's specifically for nitrocellulose finishes, and you just put a little bit on a cloth and rub it into the surface. So I'm going to do that. There's also a product called Virtuoso, which I have a little bit of left. It's hard to get these days. You have to shake this stuff up. So you put just a dab on the guitar finish and just work in small patches. And then you take a clean part of the cloth and wipe it down. Now you can do this a couple of times. You don't really have to let it dry like you do car polishes. I like to get it while it's still a little damp and buff it out. Now that's smooth as glass. Now if it's really hazy in there, I'd repeat that treatment maybe a couple of times. This is also a good opportunity, since the strings are off, to reach inside and grab the battery, if you have a battery pack inside the guitar, for a pickup, and put your multimeter on it and check to make sure you've got good voltage, and if the battery needs replacing, replace it at this time. A lot easier than when the strings are on. Okay, now we're going to put the strings on. There are a few schools of thought on how to do this. The way I like to do it is I'll put them on one at a time, starting from the lowest string, the lowest in terms of thickness. That's the high E string down to the low E strings. And on this guitar, the courses that are the lower courses are on the first row, and the upper courses, or the octaves, are on the second row, and they're offset. It's opposite to that on a Martin guitar. I'm going to start with the 10s at this end and seat them into the bridge one by one and then string them up. Now, some people will put all the strings in and put the pins in, but that's an awful lot of strings hanging around and it gets to be really hairy, literally. So I like to control each string one by one. It doesn't matter whether you put them on from bass side to treble side or from treble side to bass side. It has nothing to do with tension of the neck. The neck is designed to have the strings all off at once and put all on at once. So the first two strings are 10s. And I'm going to demonstrate on one string on the bridge and then close up on the headstock to show how I wind the strings. Now, what I like to do is to take just ahead of the ball end of the string and just bend it slightly so it has a little bit of an angle, just like that. And then you take the pin and you're going to face the, where are we here? You're going to face the slot, if you've got a slotted pin, towards the headstock. You're going to put the string in the hole and then drop the pin on top of it. That little angle will have it facing the headstock so that the ball end will catch the bridge plate underneath. So hold the pin down and you're going to pull that string up. Make sure it catches. And then you're going to move the string up to the headstock. Now again, as I say, some people will do all of the bridge first with all the strings and then move to the headstock, but I'm going to do them one at a time. So I'm going to move my camera and we're going to focus on the headstock. Now we're focused up on the high E tuner, and I'm in close up here because I want to show one thing. I've first of all lined up all my holes up and down so that it's easier to slot all the strings through as I go one by one. But if you notice, there is just in front of the hole, there is a little lip right there in where the metal's been drilled out. What we want to do with our turns is we want the first turn to be up high and then the rest of the turns to go down. We want enough turns to go down the tuner head until we get past that little lip right there. If we only have a couple of turns, then the string will rest against that sharp edge right there, and that's where string breakage occurs. So we're going to measure out enough to give us enough turns on that tuner so we don't have that problem. And this is the way I do it. On a 6 string, you'll put the string through the hole and then you'll measure to the next post and clip off the string at that point and then bring it back and start turning. For a 12 string, because the tuners are spaced, they're a lot smaller and they're spaced a lot closer, we go to the second. In fact, I'll go to the second on the bass string side, but I'll go to the second and a little bit more on the smaller, thinner strings to make sure I have enough winds. So I'm going to clip off the string at this point. And the whole thing about this is keeping tension on the string. So I'm going to hold it here, but I'm also going to hold it up so I've got tension on the bridge while I'm turning it with the power turner. So I'm holding it down with my index finger into the nut. I'm holding the tension up, and then letting it slide through. So I always have tension on the back end of the string. Give it a turn to about a right angle, and then I pull that string back like that. Now I'm providing tension on the bridge, and I'm going to go under that string first, and then each one of these subsequent turns is going to be under the next. I'm still keeping tension on the bridge as I get further along here. And I should have about four winds at that point on that post. Get it as low as possible down here so that I'm beyond that hole.
I'm going back to a place that's far away. How about you? Have you got a place to stay? Why should I care when I'm trying to get along? We were friends, and now it's the end of our love song. So let's leave it alone, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. Ooh, oh. So let's leave it alone, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. Oh, 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 oh.
And there we are. C'est tout, c'est fini. All over but the shouting. Now I just have to tune it. And that's going to take another hour. But one thing you do is when you tune this up to pitch now, I will take each one of these strings and then pull them up about the 12th fret, which is about midway between the nut and the saddle, and just give them a little bit of a stretch, each one of them, and then retune it. And then let it sort of sit overnight or play it for a while, and then retune it again. And generally, it'll be stable at that point. Hope you enjoyed this fast motion 12 string change. Talk to you later.
Oh, oh.